Hi there, and welcome to Upcycled Adulting Reclaimed Midlife, where I'm here to help you upcycle your real life into your best life so that you can feel your absolute best in perimenopause and beyond. Today, I'm going to be talking about the 10 foods you need to be eating in perimenopause to help balance your hormones. At the very end, I'm going to tell you exactly how to create your plate so that you can actually have a meal plan that works for you, because so many people give you this list of foods and then you're just trying to figure out how in the world you're going to get them all in. Now, don't forget to subscribe because we're going to continue talking about how to feel your best in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. We're going to talk about how to reclaim your midlife, how to make yourself the main character of your life, and how to have the very best years yet. So, without further ado, let's get into exactly what we need to be eating during perimenopause and why. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is that obviously you have probably heard that there are foods you should be avoiding. And many of us approach our diet plans or our nutrition plans with the mindset of deprivation. I'm not allowed to have this. I'm not allowed to have that. Psychological studies show that when we focus instead on what we can have or what we need to have, that we actually do better at avoiding the things that don't really fit in our lives anymore. So when you are feeling satiated and well nourished by the foods I'm about to tell you, you're much less likely overall to struggle with cravings or to be binging foods that are, for example, high in sugar or high in salt. You're much more likely to feel empowered and confident and in control of your nutrition, your health, and your body. So let's talk about what those 10 foods are and why they matter so much in no particular order. All right. I don't want you to think the number one food is the most important food. All of these are very, very important. So first, let's talk about leafy greens. Leafy greens include things like spinach, kale, Swiss chard, right? So we're talking about those deep leafy greens. Now, one of the ways I love getting these into my diet is by using a 50-50 blend or using power greens in my smoothies or my salads. This is a super easy way to get these into your diet. You're shooting for about one serving a day. And I have to tell you, this is the great mystery. What is a serving of leafy greens? A serving of leafy greens is 2 cups packed, meaning you smush it in there, or 1 cup cooked. Now, I don't know why that is, because every time I cook spinach, I can put 4 cups in there and I swear I just get this much out. But that's basically what you want to be looking for. Leafy greens are really high in magnesium, vitamin K, and calcium. These nutrients are essential for bone health. As we go into perimenopause and menopause, we are at much higher risk for osteoporosis. And that's why we really want to make sure that we are getting bone health vitamins into our diet, right? And this is especially true for calcium. Doctors have now recommended that we stop, especially in perimenopause and beyond, stop taking calcium supplements. They're finding that it's causing issues with calcium buildup related to heart disease. So we do not want to be supplementing calcium. Instead, we want to get it in our diet. Leafy greens are an excellent source of calcium, so make sure that you're getting your 1 serving a day of leafy greens. Number 2 is fatty fish, and we want to get fatty fish twice a week. When we think about fatty fish, most of us think of salmon. Sardines and mackerels are also fatty fish, and those are going to be beneficial. In addition, you can also eat some tuna in here. Tuna can be considered a fatty fish. Just be careful about how much tuna you're eating due to mercury levels. So really you want to stick to 2 cans or less of tuna a week if you're eating canned tuna. Otherwise, enjoy salmon. I happen to love smoked salmon or lox on a little bagel thin with a smear of dairy-free cream cheese because I have a dairy and gluten allergy. So I get those little O'Do's bagel thins, Kite Hill everything but the bagel, cream cheese, and some salmon lox, and it is incredible. I'm actually going to have that for a snack today. Fatty fish are so important because they're really high in omega 3s. And I know you've heard so much about omega 3s. Omega 3s are anti inflammatory, they help with mood stabilization, heart health, and brain health. And these things are really important as we're aging. A lot of perimenopause symptoms are mood related. And once we go through menopause, we're at much higher risk for dementia and cardiovascular disease. So we want to make sure that we are supporting our hearts, our brains, and our mental health as much as possible. Omega 3s are going to help us do that. Now, I also supplement omega 3s. I feel like it's one of those things that I get into my diet, but I'm never quite sure, or I never quite feel like I'm getting enough, especially since I'm not the biggest fan of salmon. And salmon lox, that'll do the trick. But you can also do some supplementation here, and that will definitely help. Number 3 is whole grains. Whole grains are very important because they're very high in fiber. Now, we're not talking about your white bread. Here we're talking about quinoa, which also has the boost of being high in protein, oatmeal, barley, and your whole grain breads. These are really high in fiber. Fiber is so important in midlife and beyond. Fiber actually helps with digestion, and it also impacts heart health, including cholesterol. It will help to lower LDL cholesterol, which so many women find shoots up during perimenopause. And it also helps stave off depression. Recent research has shown that eating 34 grams of fiber a day reduces the likelihood of dementia-related diseases, including Alzheimer's. So it's really important that we're getting that fiber in. Now, fiber comes from a multitude of sources, and you're going to keep hearing me say it because it's also very common in fruits and vegetables. So we don't have to put a heavy emphasis on eating whole grains. I feel like so many people think that they need to be eating 5 servings of grains a day, and that can be really challenging, especially if you're like me. I'm gluten free. I don't want to eat a lot of gluten free product. So that means that I tend to eat a little bit less whole grains. And where I focus my attention for whole grains is on oatmeal. I love to have a little bit of overnight oats in the mid morning. I find that it staves me over. I know you all are probably like, wow, she eats a lot of breakfast type foods. And I do, because I do a protein smoothie, I do my bagel with lox, and I do my oatmeal. And really, the oatmeal and the bagel with lox, that's like my morning snack and my afternoon snack, and that really helps out a lot of times. But we really want to make sure that we're getting in that fiber. A lot of times women going through perimenopause and menopause struggle with digestive issues like bloating and constipation. Whole grains and other high fiber sources are really going to help with those symptoms. So definitely swap out your white rice for brown rice. Make those simple little changes in your diet, and you'll start to really notice a difference. Number 4 is soy and soy related products. Now, I think that soy has gotten a little bit of a bad rap, and I know people have talked for years about soy causing some significant health issues or causing some problems. I would recommend that you stick to soy in the forms of tempeh, tofu, and edamame, and actually maybe move away from things like soy milk, which are a little bit more highly processed and contain a lot more ingredients that maybe you want to avoid. Soy is actually high in phytoestrogens. And now I need to just let you know that these phytoestrogens are not going to make your children experience early puberty or males develop breast tissue. It's not that high in estrogen, but it's important to recognize that when we talk about HRT or hormone replacement therapy, that's actually relatively low dose estrogen. So getting some soy in your diet can definitely help shore up that estrogen depletion or that estrogen decrease that you're experiencing through perimenopause or menopause. We do need to be mindful about how much we're consuming soy if we personally have a history of breast cancer, especially if we have a history of hormone receptive breast cancer. Make sure that you check with your breast care specialist if you're planning on increasing soy to reduce perimenopause and menopause symptoms. They may have some guidelines that they want you to follow. For the rest of us, we're looking at about 3 times a week for soy consumption. It's important to recognize that soy is also an excellent source of protein. So you can actually swap out your lean protein in your meal for soy or soy related products. I think salted edamame is one of the most delicious snacks on the planet. It's high in fiber, it's high in protein, and you get those phytoestrogens. I love those steam fresh packs that you get from the frozen section at the grocery store. So, so simple, so, so satisfying, and such a great idea. So make sure that you check that out. For those of you who are nervous about tofu, there are a million tofu recipes out there. I have a daughter who's vegan and a granddaughter who's vegan. They love tofu. One of the best tips I have here, she taught me this, is to actually squish your tofu between 2 layers of paper towel to get some of that extra moisture off. And then my granddaughter loves it just cut up with a little bit of salt on it. So I would definitely give that a shot, but it's good to know that tofu actually tends to take on the flavor of whatever you put it in. So if you put it in a stir fry, it's going to pick up that flavor. If you put it in, you can whip it up and make like a chocolate pudding out of it, and it'll pick up that really nice, rich chocolate flavor. So there's a lot of options when it comes to tofu. Very, very flexible, pretty simple to get in your diet. If you've been afraid of tofu, give it a try. I think that you will really be pleased. Number 5 is berries. Berries contain a high level of antioxidants and they have a really low glycemic impact, meaning they don't affect your blood sugar a lot. So we want to eat berries, generally speaking, every day. It doesn't have to be the same berry. It could be mixed berries. And when I'm talking about berries, I'm talking blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, right? It's so important to recognize how impactful oxidative stress is on our bodies as we age. Oxidative stress actually speeds the aging process, both internally and externally. So if you want to slow down aging, you want to slow down the aging in the mirror, or even you want to reduce your risks for certain chronic diseases, eating plenty of berries or plenty of foods that are high in antioxidants can make all the difference in the world. In addition, berries, you guessed it, are another great source of fiber. You can throw them in or on top of your oatmeal. You can put them in smoothies. You can put them on salads. Just eat a dish of them on the side after dinner. They are absolutely delicious. You will be glad you did. Now, I want to say that I'm pretty sure that strawberries are on the Dirty Dozen list. The EWC Environmental Working Group puts out a list every year of foods that you really want to eat organic because they're more likely to be contaminated with pesticides, herbicides, things like that. That may be the case for strawberries. So definitely check out that list. See if it makes sense to invest in organic strawberries. And if you're like me and you live in a climate where they're not readily available, especially organic year-round, just stick to the other berries. I like to buy frozen berries, and I find them so much easier to work with. Eating, by the way, frozen blueberries are delicious as a treat all on their own. So give it a try. I'm sure that you will love it. Number 6 is nuts and seeds. Now, if you're anything like me, you might have been avoiding nuts and seeds up until this point. They're relatively high in fat, but it is a healthy fat, and they tend to be a highly bingeable food. So if you're indulging in nuts and seeds, and I highly recommend you do, make sure you get yourself a little dish like this and put them in here. Don't eat them straight out of the container because I'm telling you, they're just like potato chips. Before you know it, you'll eat the whole canister of them. And speaking of potato chips, nuts and seeds are actually great because they help reduce that craving for crunchy, salty, right? They help satiate that. And that is really, really nice and really helpful. I know I have a lot of that crunchy, salty craving thing going on. And nuts and seeds always help with that. In addition, nuts and seeds are really high in fiber and protein. They're a great source of both fiber and protein, and they are incredible for brain health and hormone health. So indulge in some nuts and seeds and feel great about it because you are supporting your body through perimenopause when you are eating nuts and seeds. They're delicious and they're so, so good for you. Number 7 is cruciferous vegetables. Now, if you are like me and you are over 50, you probably know at least one woman who has fatty liver disease. And I have to tell you that cruciferous vegetables are so impactful for liver support. You must be eating cruciferous vegetables if you are a woman going through perimenopause, because your liver is very likely to be impacted by perimenopause. And one of the great indications that that's happening, one of the best indications that that's happening, is that you may have, again, elevated LDL. I don't think that we're aware of how important our liver is in our metabolic function. And it is a very, very big deal to keep our liver as healthy as we can. Cruciferous vegetables include things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage. I like to think of cruciferous vegetables as, the smelly ones, the ones that are most likely to give you some gas. Go and eat some cruciferous vegetables. I recommend eating these at least 3 to 4 times a week. I like to roast cruciferous vegetables together in the oven. I find that it brings out the flavors. I toss a little avocado oil in there, some Italian seasoning, some garlic powder, and some Lowry's. I love it. It's delicious. I use that as a side dish for many, many meals, but my husband in particular likes to eat it for breakfast, and he fries up a couple eggs and he puts it on top, eats it like a hash. It is chef's kiss, delicious. You have to try it. Not only do cruciferous vegetables help support your liver, but they also help support your hormones. And the reason for this is that your liver is very, very involved in estrogen production and estrogen circulation. So we definitely want to make sure that we're eating those cruciferous vegetables. We're supporting our liver health so that we can feel our absolute best and as balanced as possible. Number 8 is one of my all-time favorite foods, and that is avocados. Avocados are high in monounsaturated fat. That is a mouthful to say. They're also really high in fiber, which is a big shocker. One medium avocado has 10 grams of fiber. Not typically what I think of when I think of avocados. Usually when I think of fiber, I think of bran, right? And avocados are actually one of the foods that are absolutely highest in fiber. Now, if you are a woman who is close to my age, meaning you're in your late 40s or older, all right, you probably remember back in the day of the demonization of avocados because of how high in fat they were. Back in the 80s, everybody was following a low-fat or no-fat diet. And now avocados are having their day in the sun again. So here I am telling you, enjoy some guacamole. Slice up some avocados and put them on your salad. Put them in your wraps or on your sandwiches. Make avocado toast. It is so incredibly good for you. And by the way, if you use whole grain bread and you make avocado toast, you have probably gotten to almost half of your fiber goal for the day. For real, fiber is so important. Avocados are so high in it. But that monounsaturated fat in avocados, I feel like people aren't talking about this enough, is really great for improving skin elasticity. Hello. I get told all the time that I don't look my age, and maybe it's because I eat avocados every day. I am obsessed with avocados. So eat those avocados. They're great for digestion. They're great for your skin. They're great for brain health, and they're great for heart health. So enjoy your avocados. Put them in everything. I have this. I live in Michigan. I can never get ripe avocados. When I used to visit my daughter in Arizona, it was like the most amazing thing that I could go to the grocery store, get an avocado, and eat it that day. I get avocados that are rock hard. I leave them sitting out on my counter for a few days, and you want to kind of squeeze them every day. As soon as they are about the softness of a softball, you want to put them in your refrigerator so that they don't continue ripening, and then you want to eat them within the next few days. Sometimes I find that they'll even last up to a week, but you do not want to let them get softer than the consistency of a softball. She taught me that. I'm so happy for it because I kept letting them get too soft and then they would rot. The other thing to know is that you can store an avocado in your fridge completely uncovered. You cut it in half, and you can just actually cut off that part that gets a little brown. The reason it gets a little brown is because of oxidation. It's just like what happens to apples. It is not going bad. It is not going to make you sick. You can eat it. It's fine. It just has a really weird texture. You can also use plastic wrap or something similar to that to cover the avocado so that it doesn't get that air on it. Or you can coat it in a light coating of oil to kind of block that air from getting on it. That's what causes it to turn brown. It is not spoiled now. And I think so many people don't know that. Number 9 is beans and legumes. Beans and legumes like chickpeas, black beans, pinto beans, white beans, and there are so many beans and legumes, by the way, are a great plant source of protein and fiber combined. But one of the biggest reasons you really want to be eating beans and legumes when you are in perimenopause is that they also tend to be really high in B vitamins. And B vitamins are very important for energy. They help to give you energy, they help you maintain energy. So we want to be getting those B vitamins into our bodies because, y'all, if you are in perimenopause or menopause, you have likely experienced the fatigue, the brain fog, the feeling like you need to nap all day long, right? And that can be caused by sleep disruptions at night, which we're going to talk about in the next couple of weeks. So again, don't forget to subscribe. But it can also be caused by our body's need for more B vitamins and more protein. So this is a great way to get both in. Beans are also really great for your digestive system. I highly recommend getting more beans and legumes into your diet. This is really easy to do. I like to do things like adding beans to any soups I make. I sometimes put them on salads. Roasted chickpeas are one of the most delicious snacks on the planet, in my opinion. And I also like to add lentils to anything that I'm making that has ground meat in it. Lentils help to bulk up the meatiness of that dish. They tend to take on the flavor of whatever you're cooking them in, though they do have a flavor all their own, so be sure to be aware of that. But they also will give you some extra fiber. And I do this especially when I'm cooking with ground beef, as I'm trying to reduce how much red meat I eat in perimenopause. So this can be a really satisfying, easy way to do that. They're pretty simple to cook with. If you can cook rice, you can definitely cook lentils. So make sure that you check those out, add those to your next meal. You will be really, really glad you did. And 10, last but not least, and maybe you were already expecting this, is water. You cannot be hydrated enough in perimenopause. Kidding. Of course, you can't overdo anything, but when you are in perimenopause or menopause, you need a lot more water. The very first symptom of dehydration is not thirst. The first symptom of dehydration is fatigue. We're already experiencing so much fatigue in perimenopause and menopause that we may very well not notice how dehydrated we are. So we want to make sure that we're drinking water every single day. Some tips to drink more water would be making sure that you drink a glass of water as soon as you wake up in the morning. Carry a water bottle with you every time you go. Refill it every time you get up to go to the bathroom. Adding things like herbal teas or electrolyte packets can be really helpful. Now, don't get me wrong, adding electrolytes doesn't mean you need less water, but it can actually flavor the water and make it more enjoyable for you. You can also add fruit slices. I like to experiment with fruit slices and different kinds of herbs and herb combinations, and I find that it is really amazing. I feel like as we go into winter, we tend to not drink as much water just because it's cold outside. We don't typically want something cold that doesn't feel refreshing. So I just, again, want to circle back to the fact that herbal teas, any decaffeinated tea, counts as water. What I do not and would not count as water is any kind of diet pop or, for example, Coke Zero. There's too many things going on there, too many chemicals in there. That does not count as water. If you really don't like the taste of water, you can also cut it with a little bit of juice to give it a little bit more flavor. But drink your water, drink it all. I carry this around all day long. It's heavy because it's glass. You don't need one this big. Make sure that you are getting your water consumption. That is going to be absolutely essential. Now let's talk about how we're going to build a plate so that we're including these foods and we're getting what we need to have into our diet every day. I recommend that you have 3 meals, okay? And then optionally, you can add snacks in. I find that it's a little easier for me if I eat 3 smaller meals into snacks just because of the time that I'm eating and what works. I always eat 1 snack. Sometimes I eat 2, but I always leave that opening for that second snack. What I like to focus on is making sure that every meal and every snack has fiber, protein, and fat. And if you focus on fiber, protein, and fat in every single meal and snack, you will be getting an excellent balance of nutrients. Now, generally speaking, that means that most of my snacks and meals have a vegetable of some sort. All of my meals have a vegetable of some sort, for sure. A lot of my snacks will have, sometimes I'll have a whole grain instead of a vegetable, but I always has a fiber source. So what you want to do is start with a lean protein. That may be chicken breast, it might be fatty fish, or it might be a plant protein like beans and legumes or soy. So that takes care of almost half of our list already. And then you want to add a vegetable and a source of fiber. So your vegetable may be your source of fiber. Oftentimes it is. I usually try to have half of my plate for meals be vegetables, and then I may add a small serving of a whole grain. Now, again, that is because I happen to be gluten-free. So me getting whole grains in can be a little bit more challenging. Usually I have my snacks, including whole grains, in place of the vegetables. So I make sure I get those vegetables in at the meal. I get the whole grains at the snacks, and they're usually relatively small servings because, again, it's hard for me to get them. But what you want is start with your lean protein, add your fiber. Generally and typically, you're going to have that be a vegetable and a whole grain. And then the third thing, and the thing that we so often forget to add, is a healthy fat source. Fat is very important to have on your plate for every meal and every snack because it increases your satiety level, reduces cravings, and fat is essential for micronutrient and vitamin absorption. So you really need the fat so that your body can get all of those great vitamins we were just talking about out of the food you ate. Now, do not forget to subscribe to Upcycled Adulting Reclaimed Midlife. I am going to continue on talking about how to feel your absolute best through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, so that you can have the health span and the lifespan that you deserve to have to be able to chase your dreams and build your best life for midlife and beyond. I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.